This is the NucDeck. It's an open source PC gaming handheld that I've spent hundreds of hours designing and building over the last year of my life and more money than I care to admit, just so I can share it with the world. It's painfully close to being finished, so let's jump straight in and finally wrap this project up. The first revision of the power management was enough to get us up and running, but it had a few fatal flaws that prevented me from being able to monitor the battery, so I had no way of knowing how much battery was left before needing a recharge, making it pretty stressful to use without having it plugged in. So let's see if we can fix that. Before we begin, I've had a couple of questions about the power management, so let's have a quick look at how this power management system works. The problem we have to solve is fairly simple. We have two sources of power, a charger input and a battery, and one device that needs to be powered. We need to be able to switch seamlessly between the two sources as well as charge the battery and monitor the remaining capacity. Enter the Texas Instruments BQ25792, a 1 to 4 cell 5 amp buck boost charger with dual input selector. This is the heart of our power management system. The charger and the battery are both connected directly to this chip. The list of features this thing has is a mile long, so I'm oversimplifying it here, but basically it charges our battery and intelligently selects which power input to use to keep our PC running. Between the battery and the BQ chip, I've included an Analog Devices Max 17261 fuel gauge. There are a huge number of fuel gauges to choose from, but a lot of them require specialty programming tools and will lose their memory every time the battery is disconnected. This one is no different in the memory aspect, however it can be easily programmed on startup by the Pico in the controller, which communicates with the fuel gauge via I2C. It also has the added bonus of being compatible with the same software as the Max 17055, which Stoned Edge and I used in the Retrolight, meaning integrating it with the controller software should be easy. The fuel gauge basically does one thing: monitors the current draw and battery pack voltage and calculates a remaining capacity and a time till empty. These are all things we could try and do ourselves with a separate current sensor and voltage monitoring, but the fuel gauge does a very accurate job of it and it's easy to integrate. The final part in the power management puzzle is cell balancing. Since we are using a lithium battery with 4 cells in series, it is critical to ensure that the cells are all at the same voltage so that we don't accidentally overcharge or discharge the outliers. Fortunately, we have a little extra protection here, as the cells I've used all have their own built-in protection circuits, meaning they basically disconnect themselves from the rest of the pack if the cell is forced into an abnormal condition. It's still a good idea to try and keep them balanced though, as it will allow us to get the most life out of our battery possible. I've spent a fair bit of time over the past couple of months researching the best ways to do cell balancing, and honestly the conclusion I've come to is I'm better off just buying something pre-built to do it for me. Multi-cell balancers are dirt cheap from China, so integrating my own design would have just made the power management board more expensive to build. So I picked up this little 4-cell balancer for about $5 delivered, and I just integrated some pins to connect it to the power management board when we're done. So all up, we have 3 levels of protection for our battery cells. The power management IC ensures the pack voltage is always within an acceptable range. The cell balancer ensures the cells remain balanced so the charger can accurately charge the pack. And finally, the individual cell protection circuits provide a last line of defense in case anything goes wrong. So now we just have to put it together. Thanks to PCBWay for supplying the PCBs for the project. Make sure you check them out for all of your 3D printing, machining and PCB production needs. Now, let's dive into the build. Starting off with the BQ25792. This is a QFN package, so it can't be soldered with a regular iron. You'll need a hot air or a reflow oven or platform. In my opinion, this is the most difficult part in this design to solder, so it's worth taking your time to get this one right. I had quite a few failed attempts at soldering this IC, which is why this video is a week later than I'd hoped. But here's the process I ended up settling on that seems to give the most reliable results. First, I picked up some better flux. The one I'm using is called Chip Quick NC191. Squeeze a little flux onto the pads and place a small amount of solder on the tip of your soldering iron. Use the solder on the soldering iron to tin the pads for the BQ chip, being careful to coat all the pads evenly and ensuring there are no bridges. There are a couple of groups of pads that all connect to the same net, so they will most likely melt through the solder mask and bridge themselves, but that's fine. Once you've confirmed none of the other pads are bridged, put a bit more flux on and drop the chip in place. Make sure you check the orientation mark on the IC matches the mark on the PCB. Next, Reheat the solder until it becomes liquid and ensure the IC is sitting in the correct place. If it isn't, bump it until it appears to be central. I also apply a tiny amount of pressure on the top of the IC to ensure it's seated down properly before removing the heat. At this stage, it's a good idea to check for shorts between the power rails, as the chip is where you are most likely to cause them. Set your multimeter to continuity mode and check the following combinations: V out to ground, V in to ground, V in to REGN, SW1 and SW2 to ground and V out, and finally cell 4 positive to ground. If none of these combinations register a short, you should be safe to continue. Next up is the fuel gauge IC. I filmed the rest of these before I had my new flux, so no need to use the paste flux here. I found this IC to be far less trouble than the BQ chip, so just apply a bit of flux followed by some solder paste, place the IC ensuring the orientation mark matches the one on the PCB, and heat until the solder paste liquefies and the component falls into place. The big inductor is next. It should be pretty self-explanatory. This is the regulator that powers the fuel gauge. It only fits on its footprint in one orientation, so just make sure it matches and you'll be right. And the last of the interesting ones is the Hall effect sensor for the trigger. Then we'll move on to the passives. Just take your time and work your way through the bill of materials, placing the components according to the silkscreen. The LED is the only polarity sensitive part here, but it's too small to show on the video, so I will do a diagram for the GitHub page to show how they should be fitted. Now would be a good time to check all those same points again with your multimeter to ensure there are still no shorts. Then we will finish up by fitting the FFC connectors. My approach with these is to apply some flux to the PCB, then just solder a pin or two down one end first before having a close look to ensure the connector is aligned. If it's not, it's easy to just reheat the solder on those couple of pins and move the connector until you're happy with the alignment. Once it is aligned, solder the mounting tabs so it's held in place firmly, and then finish off the rest of the pins. Now the PCB can have a bath in the cleaning solution, followed by a blow dry with the air compressor, and we can begin testing. I did my initial tests off camera, but while I connect this up, let's talk about what you should do. The safest approach to take is to use a low current power supply, or even some regular alkaline batteries for the first power up. The low current limit should help minimize the possibility of damage if there is a short somewhere we haven't caught. I used an old 5 volt 500 milliamp USB wall brick with some leads soldered to it for my first test. 5 volts applied to the V-in should be enough to power everything up. If everything is working correctly, you should see a bit over 12 volts on V-out, and the indicator LED should be slowly flashing. If that works, turn off the power supply and connect the battery. The LED shouldn't light, but you should see full battery voltage at V-out. If so, turn the power supply back on and check the indicator light. If the light is solid, that means the battery is charging and you've successfully finished your BMS. Now that it's all connected up, let's fire it up and take a look at the final product. The battery readout is now receiving a calculated state of charge from the fuel gauge, so the battery icon updates in real time as the battery is used or charged. The charging status indicator shows 3 states: charging, discharging, and AC. The charging status detection is a bit sketchy at the moment, but I'll work on correcting that at some stage in the future. When the battery is fully charged and the power is still connected, the AC status is shown. And when the battery is discharging, an estimated time remaining is displayed below the battery icon, and it's updated every 5 seconds. Over a few charge cycles, the fuel gauge will learn how the battery performs, so the time remaining estimate should be pretty accurate for any level of load. And that just about wraps this project up. I've had a few people ask about a total price of components, so over the next few days I will check over the bill of materials for current prices and update the video description along with the GitHub page for the project with a completed price. I'll also be uploading the files for the BMS and the code for the controller, so everything you need to build one will be there. I'm going to do one more short video on the NucDeck showcasing it, like the one I did for the UFO, and then it'll be full steam ahead on the new project that I've dubbed the NucDeck. If you're interested in building one of these or something like it, check out our Discord server, as there's plenty of like-minded people on there building similar projects. I also have a Buy Me a Coffee where you can help support the channel directly. The donations help me purchase parts for these projects more easily, which allows me to get videos out more frequently. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.